and welcome to HUBCP's Lounge. Now, I've got an incredibly special guest today in the form of Helena Hills, who's the founder of TrueStart Coffee. Helena, how are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to be here.
Brilliant, and I must say, you are looking absolutely awesome in your pink hair. It just looks so different, and I guess very much expected of someone who is just obviously as outgoing and extrovert as you are.
Yeah, it matches one of our products that's behind me, actually, doesn't it? I've just noticed that. But my son's just been doing hair colour and stuff at nursery, and he's going, Daddy's got brown hair, Leah's got brown hair, Mummy's got pink hair. I'm like, yeah, it sounds quite funny when a toddler says it.
Now, we interviewed you a couple of weeks back and featured one of your articles on HUBCP, and it has had some incredible feedback. And I think a number of things really struck me about your article, but the main thing for me was the energy and the passion and the positivity that you literally just radiates from every single interaction that we had together. And I found that really inspirational. And so we were really keen to do this talk with you, to really just get an understanding of what makes you tick and what drives that inner positivity, because it's something we all need. And I think especially in the times that we find ourselves in, you've always got to really keep a check and try and make yourself feel as good as you can. Yeah. But before we get to that, Helena, just tell us a little bit about the awesome business that you've started.
So TrueStart is coffee that makes you feel great, right? We are a challenger coffee master brand. So we have coffee in every which way, from drinks to beans to barista grade instant, and we literally exist to spread positive energy. So what you've picked up on there is the reason TrueStart exists. That's who we are, yeah.
And when did you start the business?
We started it 5 years ago now, which I can't quite believe. I can't quite believe it's been that long and that short at the same time. Simon and I started in quite a different world to where TrueStart sits now. We started really in sport, and now TrueStart has evolved into a really vibrant, colourful lifestyle brand that includes sport, but includes everything else as well.
And you picked up some pretty cool brands, some cool awards along the way. The one that comes to note is there's a number of prestigious ones, but the one that I'm drawn to in terms of, because it's such a well-known award, is the Great British Entrepreneur of the Year Awards. You got it for Scale Up Business.
Yes, yeah, we did. I'm really proud of that one too. I mean, I'm so proud of all the awards that we've won, but that one, to be like recognized nationally like that, for me, when we won it, I was like, oh wow, we're viewed as a scale up now, not a startup. And I was like, that's interesting, because I'm like, always feel like it's every day is like, startup kind of mentality, I suppose. But yeah, I'm so proud of that one. And also this year, I'm really, really proud of, we won what is kind of regarded as like the Oscars for design effectiveness, a really cool global award called the DBA, Design Effectiveness Awards, and that recognizes the commercial impact of wicked design. And given our design is literally a reflection of Simon and I's, the whole brand is a reflection of our attitude to life and just diving in, and well, the colours and stuff speak for themselves. And I was really proud of that, because it meant so much to us personally to have that recognised.
Yeah. Now, talking about the positivity and the energy, this is something that all business owners can relate to, because it's brutal, isn't it? Running a business is a brutal experience. You'll go into it thinking, it's going to be tough, and then you start it, and all of a sudden you realise, wow, this is another level of tough.
Yeah, and totally.
And so attitude and people's ability to basically just reset the brain when they need to, or just train the brain to always have a good outlook, or as good an outlook as one can have, is so important for running a business. Helen, does it come naturally to you, the positivity? Are you somebody that just wakes up and you're positive? is it, where this positivity comes from?
No, in a word, no. So basically, as you know from when we spoke before, I have a neurobiological condition called ADHD. And what that means is not the behavioral disorder that society has incorrectly branded it over the decades. What that means is I operate with a dopamine deficiency, right? So I actually wake up with all the effects of not having enough dopamine flowing through my body, which includes things that probably everyone would know at a guess, which is low mood, but it also means like very little control over like motor function, things like really poor working memory, executive functions take a big hit, and also emotional dysregulation. On top of that, there are so many other symptoms like overstimulation, and these all exacerbate each other. So actually I wake up with quite a massive amount of stuff going on in my brain, which feels just like really thick, heavy brain fog in the morning. And that's how I wake up feeling. I don't wake up feeling like super sunshine. Yeah. So I have to make that happen proactively. So, and interestingly,
it's thick, right? It's like a thick.
Yeah, totally, like a thick, and it's so hard to focus through that or anything really, or communicate for me. And then any little trigger can just make it worse and worse. So like overstimulation when I'm feeling like that and stuff like that. So yeah, it's for me it's actually quite obvious when I think about it now, but I never really knew this until recently. The best way for me to manage my dopamine levels is through positive emotion, because positive emotion breeds positive emotion in the same way that negative emotion breeds negative emotion. So if you are surrounded by positivity, I'm not talking about the sort of bullshit unicorn kind of like positivity, like really like just full of air quotes that are like on Instagram or whatever. Positive emotions are like, there's lots of them, everything from like joy to like determination, that's a positive energy, or like cheerfulness. There's loads of positive emotions, and that whole spectrum of positive emotions breeds other positive emotions. So I feel I really have to stay up there, because equally, if I get triggered by a negative emotion, I can go quite quickly down that spiral. Yeah, I can't remember what you asked me now.
No, can I just, I mean, we don't have to stop recording, but I've got a damn dog in the lounge going nuts.
Oh, right.
Someone's come to the door. Steve, can you hear the dog? Do I need to stop?
I can't hear the dog.
I heard a tiny little yap when you said it.
The damn dog. Yeah, okay, so sorry, Helena. So
it's okay.
I think it's really interesting then from what you've said, because, you know, you mentioned then, I can't remember the word you used, unicorns, rainbows, what have you.
Yeah,
but I think
sort of like positivity.
Yeah, when I was talking to you initially, and going back to the fact that I was so inspired talking to you, because I naturally do not wake up, like you were saying then, you know, feeling that everything is just amazing. Sometimes I annoy myself because I can feel myself, you know, slipping when I need to be up there, and I need to be the very best of myself if I'm gonna, you know, do everything that I want to achieve in that day. And so interviewing you and discovering that for you, you have to just reset your mind, that for me was really inspiring to know that clearly you can achieve it.
Yeah, definitely.
So how does it?
I think a lot of people feel like that. And also the problem is this sort of like this internal rhetoric of like negativity when you're feeling bad in any way, like brain fog, whatever it might be. And then you start beating yourself up about it. And that actually just triggers this negative spiral. And then you're just completely lost in this world of not doing what you want to do and being who you want to be on that day, because you're just feeling these negative emotions. So I think so many people experience this. And now more than ever, You've got the spectrum of neurodiversity, which I sit on with ADHD, and there's lots of other conditions out there like autism that also sit on the neurodivergent spectrum. But even within the neurotypical spectrum, more and more people, social media is such a thing in all of our lives now and it's this continual tiny little dopamine hit in the same way that you get a continual tiny dopamine hit from eating like cheese and stuff. So if you sat there just doing that literally all day, like people do with social media, we're overstimulating our dopamine receptors on a continual basis. And I've read some research that says that kills them off.
Really?
So, yeah. So I, with an ADHD brain, was born with less dopamine receptor availability than your typical brain. But I really believe, and I'm not, just serious disclaimer here, like I'm not a scientist, this is all opinion and what I've read. I read everything is evidence-based what I read, but I'm not a scientist. I'm just a person. And so yeah, I've read some research that actually our dopamine receptors, just for everybody, are being less effective, being killed off through this constant overstimulation. So this day and age, more and more people are definitely, and we see that more school kids than ever are experiencing anxiety. Anxiety in children is just through the roof, which is crazy, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, we all need to learn more about not just dopamine, but how to feel genuinely good, not bullshit good.
Generally good, not bullshit good.
Yeah.
That's got to be in big quotes. I love that. Because what you're saying is, therefore, bullshit good is basically fake.
Totally. And it's like, I mean, we all kind of know it, don't we? Like, social media is a bunch of highlight reels that makes you feel crap about your own life. This is not, and like posting a perfect picture on there to show your highlight doesn't actually make you feel good. That's the falseness that I mean. We need to start learning again how to feel. For me, good means calm and clear and able to be who I am with no feeling of judgment or dread or worry or anxiety and concern over what other people will think. And I think those feelings are so heightened because everyone's so used to judging other people with a like, or it's becoming like endemic in our world, isn't it? So we're all like sort of losing that feeling of getting our self-worth from ourselves and just ability to generate that ourselves.
Okay, so you've managed to clearly achieve a consistent level of really good energy, really good positivity. Talk to me about, therefore, the developments of your own company over the past few months, years, whatever time frame you want to talk about. How has your ability to really keep, I guess what you've been able to do is therefore keep away, being able to really focus on what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, tell us about what you've been achieving with the business and really what that overarching main goal is with TrueStart.
Shall I tell you a bit about how we sort of like have evolved into who we are today? Because it's quite a weird journey and quite an interesting one, hopefully.
Cool.
So, like I said, TrueStart literally exists to make you feel great, spread positive energy. And our evolution has been fascinating because whilst we have come from being very visually different to who we are today, our reason for existing has never changed. And it's only recently that I've come full circle on all of that. So basically, Simon and I, just over 5 years ago, we didn't have TrueStart. We had what I call normal jobs, really busy. We were doing Ironman triathlons as a hobby at the time. This is before kids. And I was on the road a lot with my job. So whether it was early morning going to the gym or going out on the road or whatever, I was fundamentally drinking loads and loads of coffee to like keep me going. And I would find that sometimes I would feel great after a cup of coffee, and sometimes a coffee never did anything at all. I needed like loads to get going. And then sometimes I would feel like awful after a coffee, like heart palpitations, the lot. And turns out I'm actually quite sensitive to caffeine. And so fundamentally I started this is something with my ADHD brain that I do a lot. Started like hyper focusing on, at the time, because we're doing so much sport, I was coming at it from a nutritional sort of standpoint. Started like looking into caffeine and coffee and sport and just the impact that it has on your brain and body. And I found out that the caffeine level in coffee just varies insane amounts. Like it literally goes from like 25 milligrams sometimes to like, if you get like a really big one from one of the big coffee chains, you could be having like 700 milligrams of caffeine. And I am not exaggerating, because some of them just have so much in. And you know, you get huge ones as well. And it is nuts, yeah. But people don't think of people definitely think about things like sugar and fat content of what they're eating, but not caffeine. And it turns out it's almost like going into the supermarket and not knowing, like a beer or a bottle of vodka not being labeled as different alcohol contents, like really odd. So I was like, no wonder I feel so different every time I have a coffee. Surely Simon and I were like, just surely we're not the only people in the world who think a reliably caffeinated coffee that's really clean, that makes you feel great every time, would be a win. And at the time we were like, for sport, definitely, because you can't have heart palpitations when you're going out on a run. But also just in life generally. So cut a long story short, we realized that what impacts caffeine in coffee is loads of variables, everything from like, you know, the type of bean and obvious stuff, but even like the rainfall on that crop, loads of things make a difference. So we set about developing this sourcing process that basically makes a really clean coffee with a reliable caffeine content that makes you feel good every time. And we launched what was called, at the time, we called it performance coffee. And we really honed in on that caffeine difference. And we literally, the product looks so sporty. It almost looked like a cross between like Red Bull or Monster, like too scary and serious sporty, but we're not designers, so we didn't know how to bring what we wanted to do out. So yeah, we had this kind of scary looking coffee product. But day one was Simon and I in a field near Taunton here in the southwest, with about like 20 people that were running this like really rubbish little 10K event. It was so rubbish. There was nothing happening there. There's 20 people kind of thinking, oh God, is this even an event? And we rocked up with like a boom box, and our first ever product was our instant coffee, and we were handing out like free shots of it and being like, have an awesome race, and just telling people, you know, people were like, what's this? And we were telling people what we're up to. And our first ever product, the slogan on it was unleash yourself. It's everything we still stand for. It was very like sort of like hardcore, unleash yourself, but also the sentiment, the reason we came up with it still stands today. It is absolutely about being able to be your best self, like so you can do what you want to do. So anyway, people were coming back after this 10K race and they were going, I got a PB, like I'm sure it was my TrueStart. And that was like the first time we really saw firsthand how you can so positively impact people's mood just straight away, and performance, mental and physical performance, with positive energy and a cup of TrueStart, obviously, but also with the vibes that we were bringing to this random field. And we started building our tribe from there. Like our first 3 years was relentless events. Simon and I were like at least one, sometimes like 3 or 4 events a week, again before children, just giving away little cups and little shots of TrueStart, and people were really like joining our tribe, and it was just so much fun. Like some mornings we would wake up at like, we'd have on big events that were a long way away, we'd have alarm going off at like 3 in the morning and making loads of TrueStart, and like it was like exhausting, but obviously I had the energy and I didn't care. It was so much fun. So fast forward 3 years, we had effectively built like an amazing brand. Coffee for Sport is what we became known as. And lots of people, we had a few other products by then. We even had coffee cereal bars with a shot of TrueStart in each one, basically. And nice. We had so many people absolutely loving their TrueStart, it making them feel good, whether it's before a race or what. But we really realized, we went to a cycle show at the NEC, like a big cycle like event. And on paper, we had the best event ever. Like sales were great. People were just coming up, people that had been customers for a while, new customers, and just really the whole place was buzzing. If you bought a coffee from the NEC cafe, it was in a TrueStart cup. It was amazing. But Simon and I were in the van on the way back to Bristol afterwards, and we looked at each other and we were literally like, that was so boring for us. I know it sounds awful, but we realised
a great day with sales and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was a whole weekend. It was like 4 days, and it was just, we just were not excited anymore. We were like, ugh. And it was like on paper, brilliant. So the fact that it was brilliant in inverted commas, but we hated it, is kind of like, you have to listen to yourself then. And earlier that year, like we had been to one of our favourite, we had had a tough year with the business, or a tough period earlier that year. And we had like taken our van to like the Tour de France and to one of our favourite festivals near Berlin called Melt Festival. And like there at that festival, there was like Red Bull, they were sponsoring a stage. And we were like, because we love our music, we love festivals, and we love sport, but it is just a part of who we are. It's certainly not everything that we are, but TrueStart I've become entirely sporty. I felt like I'd get up every day and I'd put on like sports gear, and it's just not who I am. And just, it started to feel inauthentic, even though TrueStart was born out of the most genuine, authentic reason for existing ever. And we were like, you know what? We just made a decision. It was like, no, it wasn't hard actually, but it was a big decision. We made a decision that we did not want TrueStart to exist unless it was on the path to becoming what we want it to be, which is a globally impactful, awesome challenger brand that makes people feel great on a global scale. I want to prove that you can build a brand like that has a global impact on people and their mood and how they feel without compromising on ethics, people, or the planet. And we just weren't doing that because we were so niched into sport. Like that just restricted us so much. We had people who were like buying TrueStart, putting it in their sports cupboard, having it once a week before a bike ride, and had drinking Nescafe the rest of the time in their kitchen. And we were like, whoa, like this is wrong. So we decided to throw everything at a big rebrand project that we worked with this incredible branding agency called Brand Opus in London, who we would never normally have been able to afford, but they like worked with us on like a sort of special case because they saw the potential to, you know, be really, really creative. They get their bread and butter from big brands, and they were like, we can really have an impact here, and hopefully we'll win some awards off the back of it, which they did. So they just did loads of listening to Simon and I and our vision for TrueStart, why we're doing it even in the first place. And it was a process, obviously, it wasn't overnight, but they just created this unbelievable visual representation of what we're trying to do. And that launched 5 weeks after all was unveiled, along with new products like our drinks. 5 weeks after Leo, our first son, was born 2 years ago. And yeah, since then it's just been so much fun, like every single day. I mean, I really dislike the over glamorization of entrepreneurship, so I'm not going to do that, because it is such hard work. But every day I feel like I'm living my reason for existing, definitely. And yeah, it's been awesome the last couple of years. So TrueStart, as you see it today, has been around 2 years.
Right, we'll get back to that, your reason for existence, in a moment, because I think that's imperative. That's the cornerstone. That's the foundation for every single business. If you know why you exist and why you do what you do, then you know you're onto a winner, because that's how you start to create messaging that stands out and something that's authentic and real. But can you just grab the obviously for our podcast listeners, this isn't going to be too much benefit, but for people, you just grab the picture of the brand behind you. So you've got the copy behind you, right?
Yeah, I do. So I've got a few of our products here. So this is our barista grade instant coffee, which is like absolutely game changing. This has actually just hit Amazon's #1 choice for instant coffee. I literally cannot describe how proud I am of that. There are over 3,000 instant coffee products on Amazon, and obviously the instant coffee category is full of the world's biggest brands. Number one for Amazon's Choice. So there's Amazon's Choice. You know the little flag on Amazon that says Amazon's Choice when you search? It's coffee or whatever. So we've got that for instant coffee, and that is there's a combination of things that Amazon use to determine which product should get that flag on it. It is sales, so volume sales, and we are the 15th bestseller for instant coffee at the moment on Amazon, which is, again, mind-blowing. And then the other two things are conversion rate once people are on your page, and reviews is the third thing. So they use a combination of your performance in those three areas, and the best performing brand as a combination of those three is Amazon's Choice. And TrueStart is Amazon's Choice for instant coffee, our barista grade instant. And that is just like outrageous. Like Nescafe, Kenco, Dowebers, they all have so many products on there. And TrueStart's coming out trumps, which I'm incredibly proud of. I mean, we only launched the product on Amazon 3 months ago, so that's really wicked. And it shows.
Just lift it up. Just lift up the. So the branding.
This is our big tub. That's why it's bigger than mine.
So am I right? You know, you've got the two legs that are basically diving, obviously headfirst into the water.
Into life.
Into life.
Yeah.
We all know that feeling. We all know that feeling of when, you know, on holiday or whenever you jump, you know, you dive into the water, and just that catches your breath, and it all of a sudden creates that surge in energy and everything. I guess that's what it's getting at, yeah. Yeah,
exactly. Just dive in.
Brilliant. So anyway, where were we? We were talking about the enormous success that you've had on Amazon. Yes. So existence and why and what have you. Now, something you just said a little earlier, which I found really exciting. You used the word global. Now, you talk to many. Excuse me. You talk to a number of American entrepreneurs, and they're always using the word global. You know, the American mentality is always very much around global expansion and what have you. And in the UK, we're not quite like that so much. No, I don't want to put everybody in a box, because that's just not what I'm saying. But we tend not to be as ambitious in the way we speak about, you know, the growth of our businesses. Has that always been something that you have had as that number one thing in your mind, which is we're going to be a global brand?
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, I see like no limitation on. I mean, I'm literally like, global brands exist, so why can't we build one? It's not a thing. It's not even a consideration for me that we might not be able to. What I would say is that we're not a growth at all costs kind of business. That's just not how Simon and I view things. So this global impact is probably a better way of putting it, and global recognition. I mean, I used to spend some time in South America, and I literally have been in the arse end of absolutely nowhere, and you've got these kids that have never been to like a town, and they've heard of like some things like David Beckham and Coca-Cola usually. But like, I'm talking about like globally impactful, globally recognized. But this is not going to happen overnight. And I think that is the key difference in how we talk about like a global brand, Simon and I. This is just from a personal perspective. I'm not trying to make this like boom or bust company. Like, we're like growth, fastest growing, like best, like just bollocks. Like, I'm not into that. We're here to build sustainably a brand that is gonna last. We are going to be around for a very long time. Leo, our 2-year-old, was making me laugh the other day because Simon was just leaving to go to the office, and he went, Daddy's going to work at TrueStart Coffee. Leo wants to go to work at TrueStart Coffee. I was like, there's plenty of time for that. Joking, obviously. But like, you know, that there's no people ask us about like what our plans are in terms of like an exit plan. And I'm like, no, we're not in this for an exit. Like, we're in this for what we're actually achieving with making people feel great. I know it sounds cheesy that I keep repeating that, but it's true, because I can't function without that feeling. And I know there's a lot of people in this world that are struggling to function because of the negativity. And I want to combat that. I think we've got an opportunity to combat that and actually do genuine good in the world. Coffee's like a vehicle for spreading that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing coffee, but it's about the feeling.
Just take us back to, because I think this leads in nicely to really understanding the kind of why you do what you do. And we've touched upon that, of course, in a lot of detail already, but you'd had that successful 4 days at the event. Sales were just incredible, but you had that feeling of, ugh.
Yeah, you've got to listen to your gut.
Yeah. And
it took us a while to be able to do that.
Yeah, so for some people that would be almost, they'd be thinking that's a bit crazy. If you've had great sales, then obviously the ingredients are all in place and everything should be absolutely great.
People thought we were crazy for it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to explore that rationale and that way of thinking a little bit more, and how that has therefore impacted the growth that you've experienced after that. What I'm trying to get at, Helena, is so why you do what you do is to give people that perfect, that true start, that surge of just energy, etc., etc.
Exactly.
But it's almost, if you deviate away from that, it's almost you feel like the point of the business is no longer really why you want to do it.
Yeah, I call it course correction a lot when I'm talking to the team about it. It is very easy to get distracted, whether it's a small thing you're doing or like your entire business. It's very easy to get distracted away from your core reason for existing, not just because something shiny comes along on that day, but for other reasons too, like people questioning what you're doing. And just, like, for example, we came up with this idea. It was coincidental that we were into sport at the time, so that's why we launched into sport. But because TrueStart was so well received in sport, we literally got lost down it. We were like, we got more and more sporty and moved further away from the reason we came up with the bloody idea in the first place, which was because I feel good if I've had like a clean, reliably caffeinated coffee, and I feel shit if it's a crap coffee. Like that was why we actually came up with the idea. And yes, for sport at the time, but also like I was driving to meetings. It was just like my general life. But we ended up getting niche into sport because it was doing so well in sports. That was a good thing. But then it conversely like took us away from our reason for existing. And it was, I think Simon and I, because we're together doing it, we do talk about it, TrueStart, obviously a lot, like in an informal setting, like at home and stuff. So we don't really believe in standing still. Like both of us like to push forward and forward and forward. So when we don't feel right about something, we just literally talk about it, and something always comes of that. And that's what was happening this year, bearing in mind, a couple of years ago, bearing in mind we had a tough few months at the start of that year. And like, we were talking about it, we were like, should we be doing this anymore? Are we really enjoying it? And we came to that conclusion, that we weren't enjoying it anymore, but it wasn't because we didn't want to do TrueStart. Because we were going down the wrong path with it. So we were like, it was because we're together on it, we do give each other the guts as well to follow our gut instincts. I do think it's harder if you're on your own, because support is so important. But we were like, what do we want TrueStart to be? Do we believe in that enough to throw every single penny we've got at it and bin what we've built to date? And I remember saying to Simon, because, a lot of people around us were asking, like, are you going to bin off your customers? I was like, whoa, no. We spoke to our customers the whole way through, and I said to them, what is it you love about TrueStart? And they were like, your energy. I met you and Simon at this event, and immediately I just resonated with your energy, and that's why I buy coffee. Like, all of our loyal customers weren't buying the coffee purely because of the coffee. They were buying it because the coffee made them feel good, And I said to Simon, when we started the rebranding process, I said, I want the new visual identity to literally feel like a relief to our customers, because the previous branding was a very serious looking product. It was eyes, like on the front of a sporty looking packet. Yeah, it was very serious. And people would come up to us at events and go, "Oh, I thought you were some like intimidating, like really serious sports product." And Simon and I are like, you know, we've just done a few triathlons and loved it. Like, we're not like the best triathletes in the world or anything like that. And people were like, "Oh, I thought you were, but now I meet you and I realize that actually you're not at all." And I was like, our current thing that people love and our current visual identity literally doesn't match. So when people see the new one, I want them to feel a sigh of relief that TrueStart has become visually what they always knew it was in their heart. And that's exactly what happened. So I think the key is to feel really confident that changes you are making and developments you are making are for the right reasons, i.e. they are becoming more true to you, because we all evolve. Like, I've learned so much about myself over the years that there's this quote that my friend Tracy always says, that is, the best higher purposes in life are those that make sense of your past. Yeah. And I'm literally like, could not be more true. We started TrueStart, didn't particularly know why or understand ourselves. I mean, we were like in our late 20s. We didn't understand ourselves enough to know all the depth behind it. We just followed our heart with it. But now I'm like, my God, this positive energy stuff, and even caffeine and its impact on dopamine in the brain, it's literally my treatment for my ADHD, and it's how I function myself. And it's just important. I know I'm going off on a few different tangents here. It's just so important to constantly be becoming more true to yourself in your evolution, and then it doesn't matter what you do. Yeah. Because it's completely authentic. Like, it's different if you go, right, we're going to make a big change here and we are going to source much cheaper coffee because we need to make a much higher profit. Like, that's not the kind of change that I'm talking about. Yeah. Like, if the change that you've made is literally because in your heart it is right, that you've got to have the confidence in that. Yeah.
It's awesome. I love that. That's a great answer. A great perspective again, the way you've I guess articulated that. I've got two more questions for you, Helena.
Go for it.
Energy is for you a very powerful piece of currency.
Yeah.
It defines it defines your outlook on life, and it defines your day-to-day activities, your outputs, everything that you do, how you interact with your customers.
Yeah.
And I guess now let's talk about people in your own organization. Some people find it hard to let that energy just flow out of them, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? How do you feel when you come across people that they're not knocking you between the eyes with their energy? What I'm getting to is, in terms of your own tribe, your own people in your own organization, what do you expect in terms of those energy levels and really letting that passion flow?
Good question. So I really believe that your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So that is like 100% a thing. So if you're living your true vibe, then you will attract other people that kind of sit in and around that same energy level. I think it's important to understand that I know I'm very extra, so like I do not expect the team to behave this level of energy, and Simon doesn't either. We have this like nice counterbalancing. Like, Simon's very calming, and I'm a very energizing. Like, we balance each other out in, actually it helps us get stuff done. Right? Because you can't just have like super level-headedness, and you can't just have like super ridiculous energy. Like, you need both to get stuff done. So it works really well. But recently I've been reading this book called Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. It talks about this scale of energy from ultra low frequency to ultra high frequency. I'm only halfway through it, but my God, I recommend it. It's really, really good. And at the bottom of the scale, you've got at the ultra low level, you've got emotions like blame and regret and fear. And then actually in the low frequencies, not the ultra low, you've got things that are negative but require a little bit more energy, like anger, for example. And then as you go up the spectrum, you've got everything from contentedness to cheerfulness, to like there's just loads on this scale. And he talks about when people fall, people have like a natural level that they kind of like vibrate at, which I really believe is 100% true. And that level can change in different stages of your life, or if something big happens to you and you fall into a higher or lower. Actually, he doesn't call them sort of high. He doesn't call them like good or bad. You know, he just calls them different like energy state. And basically, I think that you need to find people that are there or thereabouts and where you vibrate in order to like live your true self, maybe. Yep. And he talks about when people are falling into maybe a depression cycle, for example, it can be very hard for somebody at a completely different level of energy to help them. That's something that I struggle with massively, because I'm like a perpetual fixer, helper. I feel other people's like pain and I feel empathy. This is a ADHD thing in a very severe, like actual physical bodily feeling. So I'm always desperate to like sort that out. So if somebody is very, very sad in however that might look, and I'm feeling like great about life at that point, I'm desperate to help. And actually, this book talks about how it's like a staircase. You don't just stand at the top of the staircase going, just come up the stairs, you idiot. Yeah. Like, what's wrong with you? No. You go down and you maybe hold their hand. You certainly like help them step by step. So actually, and energy is the same. And I find it really hard to get my head around that, actually, because I want to help everyone all the time. That's like how my brain just wants to do things. And that realization that actually you can only impact certain people at certain times is really interesting. It's something that I'm thinking a lot about at the moment. So what I expect from the team is us to be able to bounce off each other, and for everybody to be able to give themselves a break, or like to feel emotion as well, instead of to try and change an emotion, to just sit and feel it. That's one of my own coping mechanisms that I can trigger into rages, usually privately, quite easily. Sometimes when I'm very frustrated or overstimulated, and my best coping mechanism for that is to just stop and feel the emotion. It takes about 90 seconds for an emotion to pass through, apparently. And actually, if I do that, then I'm over it. But if I don't, and I let it trigger a spiral, then I can get into a big negativity thing. So yeah, I've gone on a big ramble there. But I expect from the team just to be themselves, I suppose. That's so cheesy. But we hire people that we, resonate with.
Yeah. Okay, the final question then. There's been so much, I guess, inspiration from what you've been speaking, and how therefore people can really feel at the top of their game through really channeling positivity energy to therefore ultimately let that passion just fly out the body. But ADHD, it's something that I'm thinking more for any kids that would be reading this or watching this, listening to this, whatever. Sometimes that can be misunderstood as being disruptive, for example.
Almost always misunderstood, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your advice, Helena, for how you can channel that ADHD and make it into a force of good that can help you, have an aspiration to build a global brand?
So ADHD is definitely a superpower, but because how it has been sort of like misunderstood in society, it has been characterized by some of the behavioral, like the the behavioral issues that can come with unmanaged, untreated ADHD. So bear in mind, you're talking about people operating with a dopamine deficiency, which causes things like, so a dopamine deficiency means your brain is wired to continually seek dopamine, right?
Wow.
Now, not only is that bloody exhausting, but it means that you can't focus, because focus is like a light switch for people with ADHD. If I am interested, then seriously, I'm like an expert, like very quickly, because I don't think about anything else until I know what I want to know about that subject. If I'm not interested, I literally don't give a shit. I'm like, and this is why Simon and I work so well again as a team, because he is, I don't know whether happy is the word, but he does the mundane stuff without much complaint.
So what you're saying is two complete extremes.
Yeah, totally, because our brains are wired for dopamine seeking stuff, and that's actually why people with ADHD can be very prone to addiction and substance abuse and stuff like that, because it's that dopamine seeking thing. Now, what it means is you need to learn how your brain, and every brain is different, ADHD or not, every brain is very different. You need to learn what positively impacts your brain and your own dopamine levels. And it is a menu usually of things. Like, I do a combination of things, from coffee, and I unapologetically drink a lot of TrueStart in the morning. Dopamine, by the way, is actually genuinely affected by caffeine. So caffeine increases the availability of dopamine receptors in a part of your brain called the ventral striatum, which directly impacts mood, motor control, and emotion. So, I mean, it's good for me. But there are other things I do too, like exercise is a really big one. And it's a different level of like, oh, I feel like I need to do a bit of exercise to stay healthy. For me, it's like, it's so important. It's actually very hard with the babies, but exercise, for me, I'm doing a lot of walking at the moment, and I listen to stuff while I'm walking, so that helps. I also find things like cold showers really helpful. And for me, just like, I've stopped listening to
cold showers. Why does that help?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the sort of like the rush you get. So anything that gives you a bit of a rush, you're getting all these positive. It's not just dopamine, but also because ADHD is more complicated than just the dopamine deficiency, as you can imagine. So dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, it gives you a rush, doesn't it? Anyone really. And I feel bloody brilliant after. So I just have a shower, and then at the end of it, I turn it on to cold for like 30 seconds, not even, maybe a bit more. And I come out, and it's like, oh God, this is a cold shower. I don't want to do it, but then I come out of the shower and I feel great. And then if I still don't feel good, so try it.
Yeah, I love it.
Like, so things for me, music is massive for me. So I can put on, there are certain tracks which are just guaranteed to make me feel great. Dancing, just like fun, silly dancing, makes me feel great. Like Simon and I are in our happy place, dancing until the sun comes up at festivals to our favorite music. And that, people can't understand how we've got the energy for it. And in a lot of ways, Simon is very similar to me, whilst also being different at the same time, obviously. So I'm kind of working out this like menu of what works for me, but also a big thing is not beating yourself up and not trying to change yourself. And like, it's not going back to me imagining a child with ADHD. I remember being a child with ADHD, and I have spent my whole life trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. And you have an unbelievable internal negative rhetoric if you have ADHD. There's some research that was done by Harvard, actually. By the age of 12, a child with diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD has received 20,000 additional critical comments than a child without ADHD. So it will be around the behavioral aspects of unmanaged ADHD. Like, oh, why can't you sit still? Oh, why are you interrupting all the time? Like all this stuff. And I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out the impact that will have on a person and their self-concept. So knowing that you're not at fault and that you're just different, you have a brain difference that needs managing accordingly.
Superpower, as you call it.
Yeah, absolutely. But to unlock the superpower, you need to be able to manage your brain difference. And it's challenging because society is set up for typical brains. So you have a brain difference, you've got to go against the grain, and that can be very hard. So it's very important to have people around you who understand you and believe in you, because it's all about that positive emotion. Whereas, for example, if a child with ADHD has parents who are trying to fix them and change them, that's going to cause a lot of negative self-concept problems. So it's about knowing there's nothing wrong with you, knowing you are just different, which is fantastic, and managing your brain accordingly, which is also a learning process. I'm literally learning all the time what works for me and what doesn't. I watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix a couple of weeks ago, which is all about, social media, right? As you can imagine what it's about. It's fascinating. It's all about how it's literally changing our neurological pathways. So I've literally deleted, my excuse was always, oh, but my TrueStart accounts are linked to it. I've got to be on social media for business reasons. Like, what load of bollocks. I've deleted all the apps off my phone, deleted it, except for the TrueStart accounts, because I don't sit and consume social media on TrueStart accounts. I was only doing that on personal. And I literally feel it's really changed the game for me. So I stopped smoking 8 years ago, and I stopped drinking nearly 4 years ago, drinking alcohol completely. And I feel like I've been freed in the same way as I did when I stopped drinking alcohol, and the same way as I did when I stopped smoking cigarettes. Yeah. So social media, it's a baddie. It's really a big baddie.
Yeah. Helena, we've spoken about a hell of a lot here, and I've enjoyed every minute. Just like when we did our article, there's just, for me, some things that, if I really make a note to focus on them, I know that my life's going to be better for it. And the way I'd summarize it, it's like, if I want to lose some pounds and get healthier, then I eat better. If I want to get fitter, then I get my trainers on and I go for a run. And why should it be any different that if I want to wake up in a better mood, then I've got to have a chat with myself and work on it, in terms of when I say better mood, in terms of having more of a positive outlook and not feeling, some of the negative vibes that I might be, giving myself. And I think that for me has been really powerful. Now, I'm not saying you can just flick a switch and all of a sudden everything's better, but what I'm saying is, from talking, you can just really think and focus on it and just try and change key elements of how you're thinking to create more positivity. And for me, I think it's so helpful in business, without a doubt. Sorry, I was just saying about that.
Definitely. I think there are two key things. Let's hope I remember them while I'm talking. One is, I have stopped listening to other people's suggestions or like to what you're supposed to do to feel good. Like the sort of like, the sort of Instagram world of like, eat your greens, do your this, like do your exercise. I've literally stopped listening to it. I'm like, my brain requires some pretty weird like stimulation sometimes. And it sounds really, really, really weird. Just that it requires some like different stuff. Like I unapologetically now will walk around with my headphones on, like really cutting out the world if I need to like lower my stimulation at that point in time. And like just stuff like just trying stuff like the world would have you say maybe things like regulate caffeine or just regulate your alcohol. For me, I'm like, I can't actually regulate my alcohol. I'm not able to. I don't have an off switch. So for me, I have to stop drinking alcohol. And people still now are like, oh, can't you have like one glass? I'm like, no, but you can. But I can't. And like with caffeine, for example, like it's like, oh, have some people like, oh, have one cup of coffee a day. I'm like, I need like 3, like first thing. And it's fine, because for me, that brings me into a relatively normal, like dopamine range. Whereas other people having 3 cups of coffee in the morning, they would go mental. And I totally get that. And it's all about working out what works for you, and not going. I see people all the time who are like, I'm trying like meditation, or maybe I tried it like once or twice. It's just not working for me. And then it triggers more negative self-concept, because they're literally like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't yoga working for me? And it's like, just give yourself a break. I think the biggest thing that I realized very recently is that I actually can take each day as it comes, not beat myself up for yesterday, not beat myself up for last week, not beat myself up for this afternoon that hasn't even happened yet. And this has helped even very recently with dropping the social media, be more in the moment and calm. Yes. Calmness does not come naturally to me. So for me, it's been working out how to feel more calm.
Many entrepreneurs, I suspect.
Yeah, and that calmness is really important to just everything. It's probably not giving myself a heart attack. So it's just working out what works for me, what doesn't, and being unapologetic about like just stuff that I always say Instagram. So sorry, Instagram. Instagram tells you to live this life and then your life will be perfect. Rubbish. Live your life and don't beat yourself up if it's not perfect. You know, does that make sense?
Everything makes sense, and it's been so enjoyable. And as always, it's just been uplifting and just brilliant. We wish you so much, so much luck with everything that you're doing with clearly a business that is going incredible places with such stunning branding and quality of products. So we can't wait to hear in terms of, what you guys are going to be doing in the future.
And most exciting product launching soon, actually. So
brilliant. Right, we'll make sure that we hopefully to be the first to broadcast that to everybody. But also for just being so real and open about the things that you struggled with, especially around the ADHD and how you've used, as you call it, that superpower as a force for good. So thank you so much for your time. We've loved talking with you and wishing you all the very best with everything you're doing with your business and your family.
My absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed chatting, as always.
Thanks, Helena.
Bye.